Okay. So I have to live stream it, and then once it's on YouTube, then I have to switch off the sound. Otherwise, it will hear lots of sound. Should be rather annoying. Okay, so there we go. Right, done. Okay, there's Nicole. That's nice. Wonderful. All right. Got it. Okay, great. Wonderful, very good. Where's Nicole? I saw her for a second and then she's disappeared. Oh well, right. Now then, let's share the screen and we'll start off with our tefillah. Can you all hear me okay? Yeah? Okay. Call out if you can't. All right. ריבון עולמים ואדוני אדונים, אב רחמן וסליחות, מודים אנחנו לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, בקידה בהשתחוויה, שקרבתנו לתורתך ולעבודתך עבודת הקודש, ונתת לנו חלק בסודות תורתך הקדושה, מה אנו ומי חיינו, אשר עשית עמנו חסד גדול כזה. על כן, אנחנו מפילים תחנוננו לפניך, שתמחול ותסלח לכל חטאותינו ועוונותינו, ואל יהיו עוונותינו מבדילים בינינו לבינך, וכן יהי רצון מלפניך, אדוני אלוהי ואלוהי אבותיי, ריבון כל המעשים, אדון כל הנשמות. Where am I? I think I've gone wrong a moment because I got distracted. יהי רצון מלפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, שתכונן את לבבנו ליראתך ולבבך, ותקשיב אוזניך לדברינו אלה. ותפתח לבבינו הרל בסודות תורתך, ויהיה לימודנו זה נחת רוח, לפני כיסא כבודך כרך ניחוח, ותרציל עלינו אור מקור נשמתנו בכל בחינתנו, שיתנוצצו ניצוצות עבודיך הקדושים, אשר על ידם גלית דבריך אלה בעולם, וזכותם וזכות אבותם, וזכות תורתם ותמימותם וקדושתם, יעמוד לנו לבל נקשר בדברים אלו, ובזכותם תראיננו במה שאנו לומדים, כמו אמר נעים זמירות בישראל, גל עיניי והביט הנפלאות מתורתך, כי אדוני תן חוכמה מפיו דעת ותבונה, יהיו לו רצונים מפי, ויגון ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי וגואלי. Amen. כן יהי רצון. There we go. Right. Just admitting all these other people. Great. Wonderful. Okay. Right. So we're going to stop share with that, and we're going to learn about the Chet HaEgel. Now, I don't know about you, but I always had tremendous questions about this whole thing. Let's get the Zohar up. Here it is. One of the first questions that I had about Chet HaEgel was, I can't remember, where did it begin? Oh, here it is. I think go back a bit. Yeah, here we go. One of the first questions that I had was that when Moshe Rabbeinu, after the Chet HaEgel, and he said, you know, who's to God come, you know, Mi Lashem Eli, who's to God come to me, and the tribe of Levi gathered around him, and he said, go through the camp and slay everybody who was involved with Chet HaEgel. And they went through the camp and they slew 3,000 people, okay, and it was men, not women. The women didn't get involved. 3,000 people, and I thought to myself, you know, here you had 600,000 people, all right, who men, okay, who stood at Mount Sinai, and the number of people who were actually involved with Chet HaEgel was 3,000. So I really wondered, you know, why was Chet HaEgel like this huge thing when only a very few people were involved? I mean, if he slew 3,000 out of 600,000 isn't a large number. So, and yet Chet HaEgel is being like, you know, a terrible thing. So again, like who was really responsible? This was my question. This is what a question that came up for me a few years ago. Who was really responsible? Why was Chet HaEgel? The other thing that also bothered me very greatly was the role of Aaron. What? Aaron, who was anointed the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, And you know, and there's different ideas about whether the order of the parashiot is in the same or in the right order or not. Whether they built the Mishkan as a tikkun for Chet Egel, or whether the Mishkan was before Chet Egel. I personally like to think that the Mishkan was not as a consequence of the sin, but it was something wonderful and fantastic on its own. All right. So there was the Aaron, and he's been anointed, and he's wearing, you know, he's got these incredible. They're making the incredible Hoshen. He's going to wear these special clothes as the Kohen Gadol. He's the one who has accompanied Moshe Rabbeinu all the way. He's been, you know, stood at his side when he had to go and confront Pharaoh. He spoke for him. How could Aaron, of all people, be involved with Chet Egel? None of this made sense to me. So these were the questions that I had, all right? And also, I mean, and Moses, you know, was only, you know, a few hours late down the mountain. Is that a reason to do Chet Egel? I mean, whatever, you know, or you got the, or half a day later, whatever it was, even a day. Nobody could think maybe we counted wrong or something. And remember, this is called Dor Deah. These were the people who stood at Mount Sinai and received the word of God. None of this made sense to me. So it was with this sort of questions that I came and I approached the this whole story. And of course, you know, when I've got questions, the place I like to go to is the Zohar, because it tells you the inner meanings. So on the one hand, what we're going to hear now is kind of like the history of what actually happened, but you also have to remember that the Zohar is not a history book. Okay, so on the one hand, it looks like history is going to tell us what actually happened, who was really involved. But on the other hand, it's not history. It's like telling us that something about ourselves, which parts of ourselves are liable to worship idols, okay? Because it's actually, the Zohar is actually a record, not of history, but of our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's why, you know, what happened then is relevant now. So we're just going to look at the Zohar. I'm going to learn the Zohar together, all right? And we'll see what we get. Okay, any questions, just call out. Tahazi, Kativ, and it's, come and see, it's written. Vaya ha'am ki boshesh Moshe. Man ha'am inun erev rav. Man erev rav. וכילודים וכושים וכפתורים ותורגמים הבו, דקרן לון ערב רב. ולא מצויים הבו, וממצרים נטלו, ואילו הבו ערבוביה דאמין סגיין, הכי הווה לי למכתב ערב רב, עלו איתם לפי ערבוביה דלהון. Okay. Mi הם העם. All right, the people saw that Moses was late in coming. Okay, which people saw this? These were the Erev Rav. So we know that when the children of Israel came out of Egypt, they came out with them also a whole load of other people as well. And they were not included in the Machaneh Yisrael. They were not included in the camp of Israel. They were generally outside the camp, and they followed on the outside. They did not receive the manna, for example. They didn't go under the cloud of glory. They were the Erev Rav. So he says, who are the Erev Rav? And he says they were Ludim and Kushim and Kaftorim v'Torgamim Hayu. That means that they were all sorts of these nations who were probably also enslaved there in Egypt. Korim otam Erev Rav. They actually called Erev Rav, but Halo Mitzrayim Hayu. But in fact, they were Egyptians. Umi Mitzrayim Nasu, and they travelled from Egypt. ואלו היה ערב של עמים רבים. They were a mixture of many peoples. Sorry, I say it again. ואילו היו ערב של עמים רבים, היה צריך לומר כך. But if they really had been a mixture of different peoples, they should have said so. ערב רב עלו איתם. A mixed multitude came up with them, Ludim, Rakushim, V'chadomeh. They should have said, he's sort of saying, the Torah would have said, if they really were this mixture of different peoples, he would have said them that they were Ludim and Kushim and Chadomeh, Lefi ha'erev shelahem, according to the mixture that they were. Samach. Ele erev rav ala itam, ima chad hava v'lishan chad. אבל כל חורשי מצרים וכל חתומי דלהון הבו תכתיב בהו, ויעשו גם הם חתומי מצרים. דברו למקם לקבל פליאן דקודש ברוך הוא. כיוון דחמו ניסינו פליאן עבד משה במצרים, עדרו לגבי משה. אמר לו קודש ברוך הוא למשה, לא תקבל לון. משה, מראי דעולמה, כיוון דחמו גבורתה דילך, באן להתגיירה. דחמון גבורתך בכל יומה, וינדעון דילית אלוהה בא מנך, וקיבל לון משה. Okay. אלה ערב רב, these ערב רב. So the scripture answers, the ערב רב, the mixed multitude went up with them, but it doesn't tell you the names of different peoples, all right? It doesn't say, designate different peoples, because in fact, they were in fact one people and they had one language. They included all the witches of Egypt and all the, haSulam, the wizards, I suppose you would say, okay? The enchanters, that kind of people who they had. Shekatuv bahem v'yasu gam hem haSulam Mitzrayim, about which is written, and the enchanters of Egypt did similarly. This is a phrase from the story when Moshe and Aaron go to Pharaoh the first time, okay? And Moshe and Aaron go to Pharaoh the first time, and God tells Moshe to show Pharaoh the sign of the stick turning into a snake, okay? And then all the haSulam of Mitzrayim say, oh, wow, terrific, and then they want to do the same, and they do the same. And then Moses' snake swallows up their snakes, okay? So they were people who had this type of magical powers. שרצו לקום כנגד הפליות של הקדוש ברוך הוא, ולהראות שגם הם יכולים לעשות כמוהו. And they wanted to oppose, get up and show, oppose the wonders of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and to show that they were also capable of doing similarly. כיוון שראו הניסים והנפלאות שעשה משה במצרים, חזרו אל משה. And when they saw the miracles and wondrous acts that Moses did in Egypt, okay, they came back to Moshe. Okay. El HaKadosh Baruch Hu LeMoshe, God said to Moses, Lo t'kabel otam, don't receive these guys. Amar Moshe, Ribono Olamim, but Moses said, Master of the universe, Kevan shu hagvurot shelcha hem rotzim litgayer. Since they've seen your incredible mighty acts, they want to convert. Yiru gvurotcha b'chol yom. They will see your mighty acts every day. V'yidu she'ein Elohim zulatcha. And they will know that there is no God besides you. V'kibla Moshe, and Moses received them. We'll find out a little bit more about what this discrepancy between Moses and God was about. Okay? It's very interesting. Samach Aleph. Amai karalon erevrav, ela kol charshin de Mitzrayim havu, de b'shehon Yunis v'Yumbos, ובשעת הדיום הבו עבדי תדיר חרשיו, וכל אילן חרשין אלן, והבו מסתכלי מקי נתי שמשה, משירותא דשית שעות ומחצה, עד שירותא דתשע ומחצה, דהיינו ערב רבבה. כל אינון חרשין זעירין, משירותא דתשע ומחצה, עד פלגות לילה. Right, so he says, Lama קרא אותם ערב רב? Why did he call them, why are they called ערב רב? Okay. משיב אלא, כל המכשפים של מצרים היו. He says, all the witches of Egypt they were, ובראשם, these horrible people, which are names I don't especially want to remember, Eunice and Nimbus, all right? And so they were the head witches. ובשעות היום, achar 6 sha'ot, and the hours of the day, that is after the morning, okay, after the first 6 hours, hayusim tamid kishveihem, they were always doing their witchery. V'kol elu mechshafim elyonim hayu mistaklim k'shenoteh shemesh le'erov, and all their highest witchcraft, they would look when the sun was tending to the evening. B'sheish sha'ot u'machzeh, at 6.5 hours, vasu kishveihem, then they would do their witchery, whatever you call it, ad hatchalat 9 sha'ot u'machzeh, until the beginning of 9.5 hours. Hainu erev gadol, she'az zman mincha gdola, then it's a time for mincha gdola. כל אלו מחשבים הקטנים היו עושים כשפיהם 9 שעות מחצה עד חצות הלילה. And all their little witchcraft they would do from 9.5 hours till midnight. So why is the Zohar telling us, when they did their witchcraft, all right? First of all, it tells us this is another reason why they're called Erev Rav, to do with the evening. But why is he telling us this? If you remember, Shacharit is Avraham, Mincha is Yitzchak, and Yaakov is the evening, right? And I think it's a hint about which vessels are involved. They couldn't use the morning because the morning is chesed, which is giving, okay? And what is the whole issue? Why did they want to hitgayer, if you like? Why did they want to convert? And the answer that is given here, we'll go back a bit, all right? They wanted to do these miracles like God, okay? And what Moses says is very telling. Since they've seen your mighty acts, they want to convert, all right? Then they will see your mighty acts every day and know that there's no God besides you, all right? But what they really wanted was the power of God. They wanted to receive the light of God, and they wanted to receive the light of God in the left-hand side, okay? Which is why it's hinted at when they were actually doing their witchcraft. Okay, because the right-hand side is giving. The left-hand side has the vessels of receiving. And this is what the great vessels of receiving is what Yitzchak corrected when he did the Akedah. Okay, and the time of the Akedah is Mincha, same time. But he corrected all those vessels that they can only be used for the sake of giving. And these guys don't want to receive for the sake of giving, they just want to receive. They want to receive for themselves alone. Okay, and that's why they were using this time, because this is the time when the time of the great vessels of receiving. All right. So it says the main light was in the first part of Mincha, okay, was in Mincha, and this, when they have the lighter witchcraft, that was from 9.5 hours till midnight. That's the time of Mariv, okay, and that would be Yaakov. All right. So Yaakov. So Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov are the tikkun of these desires, all right? They don't have anything to do with these desires, but you can see what vessels were being used, all right? They want to receive for themselves alone. And they don't want to receive, like nice cars and pretty clothes and whatever. They don't want physical things. They want to receive the great light of God, okay? That's what they're looking for. So you've got the same scenario here as you've got with Haman, okay? Haman also wanted to receive the great light of God for himself alone. It's always this story, all right? Inun Elaine, Samachbet, here we go. Inun Elaine de Behu, Havu Mistaklei Makei Nati Shimsha, Havu Kadin Sha'an Teshamea V'Tishim L'Chamesh Dargin, Nemashatet al Torei Choshech, V'Rucha de Lahon, Hava Meshatet al Kol Inun Charshin B'Charshayu, V'Elaine Havu Avdei, Kol Ma Inun Bain. Ad Kol Mitzra'id V'Chatznu de Lahon B'Elaine Havu, V'Karan Lon Erev Rav. Begin דאית ערב זעירה, 9 שעות ומחצה ולטאטה, דא ערב זעירה, ותרי ערבי עינון, ועל דא וגם ערב רב עלה איתם. Okay, so the most important of them would look at the time when the sun is just going, over the middle, okay, Natar Shemesh, okay. והוא כי אז מתחילים 995 מדרגות לשוטט על הרי חושך. Well, it's obviously 995 levels of in the framework of evil, okay? הרי חושך is the framework of evil, all right? והוחם היה משוטט על כל אלו המכשפים מכשפיהם, and the spirits of these higher ones would wander amongst all these witches and their witchcraft. ואלו היו יכולים לעשות כל מה שרוצים. And they were able to do everything they wanted. עד שכל המצרים שמו ביטחונם באלה, and all the Egyptians put their trust in them. So this was obviously when they were still in Egypt. וקראו אותם ערב רב, and they called them the ערב רב, משום שיש ערב קטן, which is also, there is also ערב קטן, the small ערב, okay, שהוא 9 שעות ומחצה ולמטה, which is the time of Mariv, from 9.5 hours onwards, the ערב קטן, ושני ערבים הם, so it's both considering both the time of Mincha and the time of Mariv together, would be ערב רב. Both together. וגם ערב רב עלה איתם, and also the ערב רב went up with them. So that means he's very ערב רב. Here he says that the ערב רב is like these very senior nasties, witchcraft people. Okay? Any questions or anything, you can always call out, all right? וחוכמתה דלהון הווה סגי, וינון הסתכלו בשעתי דיומא, והסתכלו בדרגה דמשה, וחמו דהו בכל סיטרין בשש משה, or not quite sure how it's meant to translate this. בשש שעתי קדמאין דיומא, דינון לא יוכלין לשלטה בהו, בשש דרגין אילאין, דחיד בהו, ובכל סיטרין בשש הבו, ובעיטרין דאילאין שיט, הווה זמין לרדת מן ההר, דכתיב כי בושש משה לרדת מן ההר. Okay, right. And their wisdom, their knowledge was very great. Okay? And now, I think it's very interesting to think about how these desires are also manifest in our world right now. Okay? There is tremendous desire for technology, tremendous, colossal desire. We've seen, the consequences of virus being operated on or whatever, modified in a laboratory, this nanotechnology, and it got loose or something, and then we've got COVID all over. Then we had COVID all over the world. That seems to have been what actually happened. Okay, but what were they doing modifying these viruses in the first place? Okay, I mean, do me a favor, messing about with the secrets of creation without any ethical control. This whole issue that we have with genetic engineering is I think, very similar. If we don't have ethics together with technology, then we're basically doing the same type of thing as these witchcraft. Okay, in those days, they didn't have the facilities to do, genetic engineering or whatever it happens to be. There's plenty of things like nuclear power, genetic engineering, there's loads of ways. Okay, all right. But they did other stuff. Okay. And maybe that their powers were actually greater because they weren't interested in physical issues. They were interested in spiritual issues. All right. So this Erev Rav was very great, and they would look at the time of the day, and they would look at the spiritual level of Moses, and they saw that on all sides Moses is with the number 6. What's the number 6? The 6 Sfirot. Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. Okay? For the first 6 hours of the day, they were not able to control these hours because they refer to the 6 high spiritual levels that Moses was holding on to, that he was, dealing with. All right? And these are, like we said, the 6 Sfirot, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. I also had 6 crowns, which I think relates to these Sfirot. Oh no, with these 6 crowns, with the 6 hours of the day, which is Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, he was in the future going to come down from the mountain. Because it's written, Ki b'sheish Moshe laredet min hahar. Because at the sixth, now he's playing on the words, because the words used is b'sheish, that Moses was delayed in coming down. Here he says he wasn't delayed at all. He was meant to come down at the 6th hour, all right? Because he's fulfilling all 6 Sfirot. Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod in Kedusha. So these guys couldn't do anything at that time because they knew that the power of Moses was in that hour, in that time. Miyad v'yakel ha'am al Aaron. Amar Aaron. Begin le'it kalala b'sitra d'yamina. Daha imun smola ba'u minei. Ubegin dolhu kalila b'yamina. התכנסו על אהרון ואמרו אליו קום עשה לנו אלוהים.
Yedidah?
Yes.
Right, I have a question.
Yeah.
The 6th hour this isn't 6 o'clock in the morning. What is the 6th hour?
No, the 6th hour, I think it must be halfway through the day, like getting close to midday. Because I think the hours, I'm not very good at this, but I think the hours are divided up,
But it goes from when it's
the daylight, the daylight hours.
Lights on, because an hour isn't 60 minutes because of the amount of light, right?
That's right. So it's, it's 6 temporary hours, but I think it means the middle of the day. So, I mean, because it must be, because after 6 hours onwards is time of mincha. So it means shacharis, basically. So he was meant to come down during the hours of shacharis. All right, probably the end of the time of shacharis, okay?
Okay, before midday.
Yeah. That's right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So straight away, when they see we've got to the 6th hour, Moses hasn't turned up yet, okay? Then the people assembled against Aaron. And the Zohar asks, why against Aaron? Okay, and he answers, because to include in their evil designs the right-hand side. Because the left-hand line comes forth from the right-hand line. What is the left-hand line? They want to be receiving the great light of God. They're not interested in giving anything. They want to, these magicians, or whatever they are coming from the Sitra Achra. They're in aligned with the Sitra Achra. They're in aligned with the vessels are only of receiving. Okay, they're aligned with darkness, not with the light. Sorry, I've got the hiccups. Okay, so the left-hand line, which is the vessels of receiving, come out of the right-hand line. And in fact, we also know that the light of God cannot be received unless there is some aspect of the light of giving there as well. Otherwise, the light just doesn't come because of the rule of the Tzimtzum. Okay, from the point of the Tzimtzum onwards, the light of God can only appear when it's wrapped by the light of giving. All right. So, so they need the aspect of the right-hand line to be present, otherwise they won't be able to receive the light that they're demanding. So they're going to Aaron because Aaron is also from the right-hand line. He's chesed. Okay, he's like Abraham in that respect. So the people assembled against Aaron. Now, according to this, it wasn't the Jewish people, it wasn't the children of Israel. It was these Erev Rav, okay, which makes sense to me, because otherwise where'd you get such a small number from? And they were the ones who assembled against Aaron. Vayomu elav, kum aseh lanu Elohim. And they said to him, get up and make us a god. Tachazi, kol zimna dahava Moshe b'Mitzrayim, shemad Elohim lo dakeh, el shemad Hashem. ועלדה קושיה לפרעה, בגין דלא יהי תוקפה להו סטרא אחרא, ולא תקף בעולמה, השתא באו ההיא מילה, והיינו קום עשה לנו אלוהים, לנו דייקה. אנו צריכים להי מילה, לתוקפה סטרא דילין, והבו אידחיה עד השתא. Come and see, all the time that Moses was in Egypt, he never mentioned the name Elohim. He always mentions the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. And on this, Pharaoh was angry. He says, I don't know Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Okay? He says, Mi Hashem sheshma b'kolo, who is God that I should listen to his voice? All right? Mishum shelo yeh tokef l'sitra achra, shelo yitchazek b'olam. And the reason why Moses did not mention the name of Elohim there, okay, was he didn't want to give any extra power to the other side. All right? Why? Because the Sitra Achra nikret Gamken Elohim Acherim. Because the other side, the framework of evil, is also called Elohim Acherim. So it's got the name of God in there, but it's Elohim Acherim. Now, these multitude wanted this thing, that is, what's that say? Sorry. Lekoach hasmol shenikra Elohim. They wanted the power of the left-hand line, which is called Elohim. All right? And it says, Kum aseh lanu Elohim. Get up and make for us Elohim. Lanu muduyak. For us. And that's accurate. She'erev rav amur. Because these Erev Rav, these witches, said, אנו צריכים לדבר זה לחזק את הצד שלנו. We need this to strengthen our side. They wanted to receive these great lights, okay? שנדחה דתה, because so long as Moses was around, they weren't able to make this request. משום שמשה לא הזכיר את שם אלוהים, because Moses never mentioned the name of God, of Elohim, all right? So this request had been, pushed away, rejected up till now. אשר ילכו לפנינו, מה אמרו? אלא אחי אמרו, חמינן דעתון ישראל, כל טוב וכל יקר דעולמה לכו, ואנן דחיין לבר. דלכו, והשם הולך לפניהם יומם, אף אחי אלוהים אשר ילכו לפנינו, כמו דאזיל כמה ייחוד השם. דהו רשו אית לסטרא דילן למהך, ובחכי לקימנה, נזמין לי עובדה. And he asks, why are they saying this? Why? Oh yes, that they want a God that will go before us. All right, that's what they're asking for. And he asks, why are they saying this? Why are they asking for this? And we saw that they're jealous. We saw that you, Israel, all the good and all the precious in the world you've got. But we're pushed outside. Like I said, they weren't included in the camp of Israel. They were outside the camp. They were following on behind. Okay, they were not under the cloud of glory. They were not under the pillar of fire. They were outside. They did not receive the manna. Okay, so they were jealous. And they said, oh, listen, Israel, you've got all the good, you've got everything precious, we're pushed out. Because Yud Kei Vav Hei is going before you during the day. We also want Elohim asher yelchu lefanenu, that Elohim will come in front of us. Kamo shelifnechem olech Yud Kei Vav Hei, that just as God goes before you. כי יש רשות לצד שלנו ללכת גם כן לפנינו, אם נזמין לו מעשה. Because we will manage to get this side to go in front of us if we do the action. That is to make the golden calf. All right? Oh dear, as we say. Samach Zayin. Tahazi, kol ananei yakap. דאזל במדברה לא הבו חפיין אלא לבני ישראל לחודאיהו. הבו עננת יקר דכתיב השם הולך לפניהם יומם, אז לה לקמייהו ואילן ערביו וכל עינון בעירי ענן וטורין הבו עזו לבר ממשרתי לבר תראיהו ותחזי כל עינון 40 שנים דקה עזלו יסו במדברה שום לכלכו ותינוף לא הווה גו ענני לגו ועדה עני וטרוי דהבו אכלי עשב לבא הבו וכל עינון נטרילון. Now he sort of like describes the situation a little bit more. Okay, come and see. All the clouds of glory which went in the wilderness would only cover up Israel alone. Okay, and this was a precious cloud, as it's written, and God goes before you by day and goes before them. But the Erev Rav and all the animals and the flocks and the cattle were walking outside the camp, behind. Come and see, all these 40 years that Israel went in the wilderness, there was no dirt and no, tinuf, mess, okay? There was not inside the camp, because that's why all the sheep and the herds had to, which all the, they eat grass and they, make a mess, all right, all had to be outside. And the Erev Rav were given the job of looking after them. Samachet, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Abba, I hachi inun erev lavo havu achlei man mana, Amar levadai hachihu, elamad yahivin lon Yisrael, command yahiv la'avdei, umema havu achlei, mitamsit, madid sha'er mivatar reichei, פסולת. וקרא הכריז ואמר, ובני ישראל אכלו את המן 40 שנה, בני ישראל, ולא אחרא. ויראו בני ישראל ויאמרו מן הוא, ולא שאר רב, עני ותורי דהבו ביניהו. So again, Rabbi Elazar says to his father, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, if that's the case, does that mean that the Erev Rav didn't eat the manna? And he said to him, that's certainly the case. Okay? They only got what Israel gave them, like somebody who gives something to his servant. What would they eat? They would eat, I don't know, what was left from the cooking and what was left from the grinding. What was leftovers. All right? And the scripture declares and says that the children of Israel ate from the manna for 40 years. The children of Israel. Okay? All right? Nobody else. And the children of Israel, I think they saw, and he said, Manhu. That's right. They saw it and they said, Manhu, what is this? V'lo sha'a Erev Rav, and not the Erev Rav. Tzonu bakar shayu beinehem. And they had the Erev Rav had the sheep and the cattle were with them. Okay? Now, Ad hashta havu it kafyan inun Erev Rav, v'hashta kamu va'u uvda litkafa lesitra acha. Amu o naha kulana yama hada, v'nahave bechlala imchon, oy heilon man dihech kamna, kmo dihech alachon kmeichon. Ama Aaron, chas v'shalom, dilei mishtatfun ba'ama kadisha, למהווה כולו כלל החדה, ולא יתאבון עמה קדישה בעמדה כלל החדה, אלא תו יהיו להפרשה לון מגו עמה קדישה עד דייתי משה. All right. Now he says, up till now, the Erev Rav were sort of humble, you know, they sort of kept themselves back. They didn't try to get on top. But now, I suppose because Moses has gone up the mountain, they feel that they've, rebel. They got up and they said they wanted to do this deed to strengthen the other side. And they said, yeah, let's all be one people, okay? Pluralism. Let's all be one, okay? We'll be together with Israel, It will be just like you. We'll have a God going before us, just like you've got a God going before you. Aaron said, forget it. Chas v'shalom. God forbid. She'elu yishtatfu ba'am kadosh, that these will, join with the holy people. She'kulam kalal echad. They should all be one generality. V'lo yit'avu am kadosh ba'am hazeh bichlal echad. They know that this holy people should not mix with them and become one. Ela tov hu lafridam min ha'am hakadosh. It's much better to keep them separate from the holy people ad sheyavo Moshe, until Moses comes. Okay? So what Aaron wanted to do was, he said, no, the Erev Rav wanted to somehow or other join in the camp with the people of Israel and become like more one with them, all right? And Aaron said, no, that's not going to be good. Now, we're talking about people who are doing witchcraft, who wanted to serve idols. And Aaron, they're not wanting to convert, okay? Like at the beginning, Moshe thought that they might convert. These guys are not wanting to do that. They're wanting to subvert the children of Israel to their way. That's what they want to do. Here we go. V'Aaron letov hitkaven. אלא סגיין הבו מישראל השתתפו מחדיו בליבה. ובגין כך עתה משה צריך לבררה ללבנה לעם הקדיש מהוא חובה, ואשקלון שקיו עד יתבררו כל הוא ולא ישתאה בו פסולת כלל. And Aaron intended for good, but there were many from Israel who joined together with the Erev Rav in their heart. Okay? Right, now this is what the real problem was. There wasn't that many who actually joined with them in practice. Okay? Like we said, the number of people who got killed wasn't very many. But there were amongst the children of Israel those who joined with the Erev Rav in their heart. Now we know that the children of Israel had sunk down to the 49th level of Tum'ah before they got out of Egypt. Okay? We know that the children of Israel were also idol worshippers. All right? We also know that they made great strides, that they had sacrificed the Korban Pesach, which was sacrificing the idols. They'd come out of Egypt with faith. They'd done tremendous things. But I guess these things are hard to root out. So when Moses came, he needed to clarify and bleach, if you like, the holy people from that sin. And he gave them to drink this drink, which was, he ground up the golden calf and poured it into the water, and then they had to clarify who was who. Until they were all completely clarified again, and there wasn't any wicked ones left. All right. So, what happens next? Ayin Aleph. Amalon Aaron pirkei nizmei zahav ki lo havalon dahava achra, אלא אמר אהרון, בעוד דאיתלן קטטה בבניו ובנשיו יתעכבון, ובין כך יתה משה. תחזית הנינן קשים גרים לישראל כספחת בבשר החי, כמו שאומר אילן, דלא הווה גרים כדקה יאות, אינון מה עבדו ויתפרקו כל העם את נזמי הזהב אשר באוזניהם, כמה אלפי ורבן הבו מנזמי הון תמן. Aaron said to them, take off your gold rings, like I think it was nose rings. Nesem is usually a nose ring. And he asked, well, they didn't have any other gold apart from the gold nose rings? And he answers, Ela ma Aaron. But Aaron said, this will cause a quarrel between the sons, and between themselves and their wives, and themselves and their sons. And whilst they're quarreling, everything will get delayed. And in the middle of that, Moses will come. So he wanted to delay everything with this. Come and see. Lamadnu, kashim gerim l'Israel k'sapachat b'basar chai. And he says something which is not so nice, but he says that converts to Israel are like a saw in the living flesh. I don't think that would be true now, because this is one of the things that the rabbinate and whatever is very strict, okay? But in those days, this was like the very beginning. I mean, Am Yisrael is not yet really a people. They just stood at, well, they are a people. They just come out of Egypt and they stood at Mount Sinai, but they're still very new, okay? So they didn't understand about, what a convert needed to be. And these people were not really wanting to convert. They wanted to keep their ways. That was the problem. Kamoshe hayu ele Erev Rav. And this was exactly what happened with the Erev Rav. Shelo yu gerim ka'od. They weren't actually proper converts. All right? They didn't understand, or they didn't want to understand, that the way of the Am Yisrael is the way of giving, not the way of receiving. Hey, ma'osu. So what did they do? V'yitparku kol ha'am et nizmei hazahav asher b'ozneim, kama alafim v'arabot nizmim hayu sham minizmeim shel Erev Rav. So all the people took out their gold rings. It says here in their ears. I thought it was just actually in their noses. All right. So you actually had revavot. I think his revavot is 100,000s of gold which is on their noses of the Erev Rav. כתיב, עין בית, מה כתיב? ייקח מאדם ויצא אותו בחרת, וגומר. אהרון לא הסתמר, מינון תרין חכימין, דבר ברישי-הון, דהו ערביו, חד מניו הווה קמי. ואחר היה עביד בחרשוי, כיוון דתואביו התייתו כחדה, נטלו הוא דהבה, תרין שלישי בידת אחד, ושליש בידה דאחווה, בגין הכי צריך בהו זינה דחושי. Okay. Oh, whoops, one bit here, sorry, I missed it. Here we are. And what's written? So he took it from their hand, and that's Aaron, and he made them with some sort of cheret. I don't know what that means. Some sort of engraving or something. I don't know. And Aaron lo nishma me'elu shnei chachamim, shiu barashem shel ha'orevav. And Aaron didn't know how to guard himself from these two wicked guys who were at the, the leaders of the Erevav. We said their names earlier. One was standing before him, one was, and the other one was making the witchcraft. Okay? And when the two were taking counsel together, they took the gold, and it was 2/3 in one hand and 1/3 in another hand, and this was the correct amount of the necessary for the witchcraft to happen. Eingav Bacha Rabbi Shimon Amara I Chasida Kadisha Aaron Meshicha Deloha Rabba B'chasidotcha naflu kama me'ama Kadisha ועד לא הבית ידה להסתמרה, מהו עבדו? כד מטושית שתין, ויום אהבה במתקלה, נטלו הוא דהבה פריקו מאודניהם. מה טעם? בגין דמן נצטרך למעבד חרשלו באי למייחס עינוי על ממונה, ועינון אמי שעתה קריא מלון. אי אנון לא מעכבין, לאו שעתה למייחס על דהבה, מיד ויתפרקו כל העם, מה ויתפרקו? כמו שכתוב, מפרק הרים משבש לאים, דחבילו והתבררו אודניהו, בחר כמקל דמין, ואמר, אמה קדישה דקודשא בריך הוא. Oh dear. Rabbi Shimon wept, and he said, Oi, the holy chassid, the holy pious one, Aaron, anointed by for the service of the holy God, because of your piety, people died from the holy people because you didn't know how to guard from what they were doing. And when it got to 6 hours, that is when everything was in the balance, okay? When the 6 hours, it tells you exactly, it was midday, all right? So when the sun was exactly in the middle, and it's not going either to the east or to the west, okay? That's what it means when everything was in the balance. They took the gold, which they'd taken out of their ears. Okay? What's the reason? Because whoever wants to make witchcraft, he doesn't care about how much money he's using. All right? And they said, the time the time is ripe. If we don't make any delay, okay, we'll be able to do this, because this isn't the moment to start worrying about how much money we're using. So straight away they pulled all the gold off from the people. Okay, what is Viet Palku? What does it mean, Viet Palku? It means that they were quite savage. They chablu v'shavur ozneiim. They bruised them and they hurt their ears, and then he started to cry again. Rabbi Shimon started to cry. He says, oh, the holy people of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ayin Daled. Patach Rabbi Shimon bebechia va'amar v'gishu adnav el Elohim v'chule ha'ukmu ha'chavaya ozen teshama b'Sinai ki li b'nei Yisrael avadim v'chule v'hu parik ol malchut shamayim me'alei v'zabin garmei la'achar tiltza v'lein chayev v'rashi'in guvin bishin v'teyufta דלהון למהדה לסרחייניהו ולא באו מנשי הון ובני הון אלא חבילו אודניהו והתפרקו מעול שמיא וקד להו משה, והתבררו אדוניהו, דלית לא נחולקה בשמר קדישה ועמר קדישה. Rabbi Shimon again started to cry, and he said, they brought like Anav El Elohim. It's, you know, when a slave who's destined to, his time has come to be set free, a Hebrew slave, okay? And if he says he doesn't want to, he wants to stay a slave, then he has to go to the post, the doorpost, and the owner has to sort of drive a nail through his ear, something like that, okay? And the sages established the ear that heard on Mount Sinai that the children of Israel shall be for me for slaves, okay? And as somebody who wants to be a slave to other people, who parak me'atzmo ol malchut shamayim, and he's taken away from himself the yoke of the kingdom of heaven, and he's sold himself to somebody else. Tiratzea, you need to make a hole in his ear. ואלו הפרושים הרשעים, האנשים הרעים, בחשקם לחזור לסורם, לא ביקשו מנשיהם מבניהם, אלא חבלו באוזניהם. And these wicked men, these criminals, these bad people, and their desire to do evil, they didn't ask their wives and children, but they just pulled at their ears, like, they caused them injury. All right. כלומר, שפגמו באוזן, they deliberately caused injury to the ear that heard on Mount Sinai that you should not have any other gods besides me, which is even worse than somebody who sells himself as a servant. And they divested themselves from the yoke of the kingdom of heaven that Moses had commanded them. And they broke their ears, all right? Same idea. And they discovered that they don't have any part in the holy name and in the holy people. Okay? All right, now we're getting a bit out of time, but it's really kind of quite exciting. I mean, I don't want to stop right now. If anybody wants to keep going, let's do a bit more till we get to the end of the story about what actually happened with Aaron, okay? All right. How did he even make this thing? Ayin Hey. Ma'avdu peligu d'havaihu hahu d'hava, had natil twain shlishin v'chad shlish, kamu lekabel shimsha b'shit sha'atin, avdu charishaihu ubaltu belatehon b'charsha d'puma. Kevan d'mata shevuta d'sheva, arimu travaihu yadaihu al yado d'Aaron. דכתיב ייקח מידם, תוויהו הווה, ולא יתיר. כיוון דהוא קביל מידם, כלא נפיק ואמר יד ליד, לא ינקה רע, דכתיב כי בראהו, הייתרה לעולמה. What did they do? Okay, they divided the gold between these two leaders, those two guys, Eunice and Yimbus, as we said above. One took 2/3, one took 1/3, and they stood opposite the sun at the middle of the day exactly, and they did the witchcraft, and they did they made whatever they did with the witchcraft, okay? And when it became the beginning of the 7th hour, they raised up their hands over the hands of Aaron. As it certainly took from their hands. It was from these two and nobody else, okay? And since he took from their hand, a voice came out and said, one who takes from a hand lo yinakera, his evil will not be guiltless, okay? That is said, for he is in evil. And Aaron said, you know that these people, that they are determined to do evil, because he brought evil to the world. All right. Now, what does this mean? Yadayim, hands, are the aspect of the highest sfirot, the Gimel Shonot, which come from above to below, which we're absolutely forbidden to do. We're absolutely forbidden to bring this highlight down. Okay? In fact, it was because this great light appeared on the night of the coming out of Egypt that's what caused the death of the firstborn. It's absolutely forbidden to bring this great light of God down. Okay? So, because Aaron, like we said, they weren't able to do it unless Aaron was there, because Aaron provides the light of Hasidim. And without the light of Hasidim, they couldn't do it. Okay? So, because of his presence, because of his joining in kind of thing, and he was kind of duped, all right? So, since he took it from their hands, because he then wrapping it with the light of Hasidim, then they were able to bring this light of Chokhmah from above to below, but it came in the form of an ox of the Sitra Achra. Okay, ox is the symbol for the Sitra Achra. Okay, I think the worst one is it talks about the Shor HaNogeach, the goring ox. That is the symbol of the Sitra Achra. Okay, all right. Now, ilu lakach min haaretz shu b'chinas vav k'tzavot, if Aaron had not taken the gold from their hand, but he had told them to put it on the ground, and he'd picked it up from the ground, shu b'chinas vav k'tzavot, that is bringing the light mimata lamala, from below to above, not from above to below. Lo nimshach misham klum l'sitra achra, then nothing would have been directed to the Sitra Achra. Okay? What they're trying to do, what they're doing is they're bringing the light straight down from above to below. This is the same thing as happens as Adam and Eve eating from the Garden of Eden, except here, I mean, these guys are fulfilling the function of the snake. All right? That's what they're doing. And it's the same thing as the breaking of the vessels. All right? They're bringing the light from above to below, and the vessels break. All right? So what if Aaron had said, no, I'm not touching this, put it on the ground, and then he does it from below to above, which is an action of giving, not an action of receiving, it's the direction of giving, then nothing would have gone to the Sitra Achra, and nothing would have happened. Okay. How much more have we got? Let me just check and see how much more there is. Well, it goes on for quite a long time, as you can see. We're never going to manage all that. Okay. Let's just do Ein Zayin. I think that's, yeah. Oh no, Ein Vav, that's what we have to do. Sorry. So the inner meaning of the matter is that these were wicked people, they were sinners, they were witchcraft makers. It says they were the children of the wicked Bilam. Now, I don't know if historically that would be true. All right, B'nei Banav Shel Lavan HaRasha, the wicked children of the wicked Laban. All right, they were Egyptians. All right, so, but what it means is they were their pupils. All right, they were the pupils of the wicked. They were the pupils of these dreadfully wicked people. They saw that the cup of blessing, which is the Malchut, was on the right hand side. And that it always gets stronger from the right hand side, because that's the side of giving. They said, if the head of the Sitra Achra would be involved with the right-hand side, which is Aaron, then we will get the strength that we need. Explanation. Ki asitra achra nimshechet mismol. For the sitra achra, the will, it comes from the will to receive. That's what it is. And it comes from the vessels of receiving, which is what's called the left-hand line. And they want to bring this tremendous light of God on the left directly from above to below, just like breaking of the vessels, just like the snake. V'kol chushatamhu she'en lehem harat chasadim. The only reason why they couldn't do it up till now was they didn't have the illumination of chasadim. Ki b'smol ein chasadim kanodav. On the left-hand side, there was no action of giving at all. Lachain ratzu kan lamshich harat chasadim al yedei shitfu imahem et Aaron. So they wanted here to bring the illumination of chasadim by getting Aaron involved with them, which is chesed. When Aaron was there, then they could do it. But since when they got to the 7 hours of the day, which was their time, they straight away took or gave to Aaron. And if Aaron had said to them, put this gold first on the ground, and I will take it from the ground, then they couldn't have done anything. But he took it from their hand, and the scripture is furious, mitraim, and says, "V'ikach mi'adam." Look what Aaron did, a prophet, a wise man. He didn't know how to guard himself. If he'd taken from the ground, all the witchcraft in the world would not have been able to succeed. How were they able to make this thing succeed? Because he took it from their hand and not from the ground. Now, you can take that literally, but also we said took it from their hand means he took this, this tremendous amount of light, the Gimel Shonot, and not the small amount from the lesser light, which is only the last 6, which comes from the ground, from below to above. Okay? There we go. I think we better stop here. I think we've actually covered the main points of the questions that we asked at the beginning. It goes on, but I think it. I have to say that when I learnt the Zohar, this Zohar here, it helped me a lot actually to understand that Aaron hadn't intended anything bad, that most of the people were not involved, that it was an element had come out of them from with Egypt, and just because somebody's interested or somebody's enthralled by the light of God that they saw in Egypt doesn't necessarily mean to say they are the right people to convert. Okay, these were the guys who Moses killed. All right, they took the Levi and they went through the camp and they killed everybody who was involved. All right, so they didn't survive. Okay, so but they were not really interested in doing in Torah L'Moshe Misinai. They were not. They wanted to do their own idol worship thing. Okay, so
Yedidah.
cleared up some of the mysteries. Yeah,
So these people that were living outside the camp,
yeah,
right? They weren't really being exposed to the miracles that were happening inside the camp. They, I mean, how would you not think that it would cause a problem, that there wouldn't be jealousy under the circumstances? Like, you know what I mean?
yeah. I do know what you mean. I think they were jealous. It seems to me that
Yes.
they were jealous. They were jealous.
I would be.
Yeah, but I think also, there was something when they saw that they wanted to make the witchcraft the same as Moses did. I think that was the real jealousy. It wasn't the fact, okay, they're outside the camp, they don't have the proper conditions, but I think that the addiction, if you like, to the great light of God, when you're not receiving it in the right way, is actually addictive. I think they were addicted to it. They like they had in Egypt. Okay, they'd put, thrown their rods on the floor and they'd got all turned into snakes. I mean, that's not small magic. That's quite big magic. And they said, "Oh, this is what we want. We want it." And I think they were quite addicted to receiving the great light, ecstasies and stuff like that. Okay, and that was the bit when Moses lost his temper completely, and he threw the things on the ground, the great. The tablets of stone, which not God had wrought with his own finger, he threw them on the ground, and what it was when he saw the people mitzachek, like in this sort of ecstasy, dancing around the golden calf. That was when he just said, okay, that's it, mate, and he just threw them on the ground. So I mean, it's. I think that if they had been humble, then they would have accepted the fact they were outside the camp, and until they'd proved themselves, they can't be inside the camp. Like any apprentice has to be outside first, okay? And they weren't willing to. They wanted, they wanted the great light of God, and I think they were addicted from it because they were receiving it in the wrong way.
Incredible. It's an incredible lesson. What really fascinated me, how they wanted the sparks from Aaron in order to get empowered.
Yeah.
And
yes.
People feed off energy, and we need to be very careful who we're surrounded with, because I understand that I understand from just communication in society that Erev Rav is around us, and we need to be very careful.
I think, the question is, like, what lessons do we take from it for ourselves today? I definitely think that the Erev Rav is around, in the sense that we do have, in society as a whole, people who are wanting the great light of God, in all sorts of technological ways, without any ethics involved at all. It's completely divorced. I can't believe it, but that's what we've got. I see that as a type of worship of the golden calf. I really do. Wanting knowledge, wanting technology, without any consideration of, is this right? Is it wrong? Is it what God wants? Nothing. There's no consideration whatsoever, and I see this as an example of the golden calf in our own society now.
Yeah, they want to be a part of us, and they pretend. There is a lot of pretense. I'm experiencing it through media that I'm, if it's Facebook or anywhere, and
Yeah.
It's not different than what they wanted to be one with us, and they're trying to sneak and wear kippot and grow beard and everything. Yeah.
Well, I think that the desire to be one is a very, very big desire right now in the world. People want to blur identities, and I personally think that that's a mistake. I think that people need to value each other, yes, and respect each other, absolutely, but respect also the individual paths. Okay, absolutely respect each other. There's no question that we should all have equal rights. Yes, I don't think but we don't all need to be the same. No, we need to respect our own paths. We need to, each one has an individual pathway. Rabbi Ashlag absolutely was incredible on his dissecting all this, and he very much said that we need to work for a world where everybody has the same economic advantages, and there shouldn't be, you know, these differences between people about from where they come from and what you know, if they come from America or if they come from Bangladesh. Everybody should have the same economic advantages. However, he never ever expected that or thought it was correct that people should change their religion or should all become one or become the same. No, not at all. On the contrary, he says that every single desire is valued in its own way. And I think that's very interesting, because this is what the Erev Rav here wanted in the story here. Didn't want, they wanted to be the same.
But there were two situations around this time that people wanted to be like Moshe. That was Miriam and Aaron, who say we want to be equal. We are not lower than he is. So they got striked. I know Miriam became lepra. She became tummy, and Aaron, I have no idea. But both were not allowed to go into Eretz Israel. And there was the other situation, and that's my problem. I think it was Korach who said we are the same, like Moshe.
That's right. Yeah,
everyone
right.
is equal. So I don't know. I don't get the time right. If it was before Erev Rav or after the situation, but there were within these 40 years 3 situations where people wanted to be equal like everyone else.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So these desires are not one-time desires. They're desires
from high person, Aaron, Miriam.
That's right. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Nahon, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Was it before the time of Erev Rav or after? I don't know. After. So actually, Miriam and Aaron should have been very aware what's happened when people wants to become more as they are. So they felt a lot.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's right. Definitely. Yeah. Korach, especially.
Korach, right.
Korach, yeah, definitely, with Korach, definitely. Yeah, I agree with you. But Moshe and Aaron, I don't remember them wanting
came from envying. Yeah, envy.
Sorry?
I said Korach was coming out of envying, being jealous of Moshe.
Oh yeah, envy,
yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And Miriam and Aaron too.
Yeah, they thought they're in the same level, and they were not. They put themselves on the same panel, which was not accurate, right?
Yeah.
It's very hard to live the righteous way.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Miriam and Aaron, they made a mistake, definitely, and were punished for it. But Korach but they did. I mean, Moses prayed for them. He didn't. I don't think it's the same category exactly as the Korach story. The Korach story seems to me to be much more, story of jealousy and envy and.
Yeah, we are coming to it. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Very good. Thank you. All right. Well, everybody. I hope
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah, Shabbat Shalom. I hope it shed a little bit of light on that whole story. Okay. At least we know a bit more about what happened with Aaron and who the Erev Rav were. Okay.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Okay. Shabbat
Thank
Shalom,
you.
everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.